Have you ever felt the quiet sting of being outplayed? You spoke with honesty, yet someone twisted your words. You showed sincerity, and they turned it into weakness. In a world ruled by subtle games, power rarely shouts. It observes, it waits, it strikes in silence. There's a way to move unseen, yet always in control. Stay close. You'll understand soon. As we step into the first chapter, imagine this. You're standing in a crowded room, voices clashing, tension thick in the air. Someone throws a sharp word your way. You feel that flicker inside, the heat, the urge to defend, to prove, to strike back. That moment, right there, is where most people lose. They think they're fighting for dignity, but they're only trading their peace for noise. Power doesn't leave quietly. It's handed away, one reaction at a time. Have you ever watched someone unravel mid-conversation? Their tone shifts, their words tremble, their control slips through their fingers like sand. You can see it in their eyes, the moment emotion takes the wheel. That's not strength, that's surrender. The Stoics understood this long before us. Epictetus said, "It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about them." Emotion is not an enemy, it's a messenger. But when you obey every message, you become its servant. The man who commands his emotions commands the outcome, not because he shouts louder, but because he refuses to be moved when others collapse. Now, imagine the opposite. You stand before someone who tries to provoke you, their tone sharp, their words calculated. But your pulse? Steady. You breathe once, twice. You don't fight for control, you are control. You say little. Maybe you smile slightly, not mockingly, but as if to say, "You don't reach me." In that stillness, something happens. They begin to lose their footing. Their noise has no grip. You've turned the moment into a mirror, and all they can see is their own chaos. That's the quiet weapon of emotional stillness. It disarms attackers and confuses those who seek reaction. When you don't respond, they have nothing to feed on. They expect a battle, but find a wall of silence instead. And silence, when grounded in strength, speaks louder than fury ever could. The man who stays calm in the storm doesn't do it because he feels nothing. He does it because he chooses what deserves his energy. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." And freedom, in its purest form, is the ability to decide what moves you and what does not. Think back for a moment. When was the last time someone's words pulled you out of your center? Maybe a colleague disrespected you in front of others. Maybe a friend twisted your intentions. You reacted, you defended, you explained, you raised your voice. But did it bring peace, or did it pull you deeper into their frame? That's how power slips away, not in the noise of argument, but in the quiet shift where you stop acting from principle and start reacting to provocation. The Stoic, however, doesn't chase that bait. He waits, he watches, he treats insult as a test and anger as a trap. Emotional restraint isn't about being cold, it's about preserving your center. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every morning, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's not poetry, it's practice. Life will push you, misunderstand you, insult you. People will test your patience just to see if they can make you flinch. But every time they do, you face a choice. Act from impulse or from inner discipline. The one who pauses before he speaks has already won. Picture this. You're insulted in front of a crowd. Everyone expects the comeback, the clash, the drama, but you don't give it. You look at the person calmly, perhaps even nod, and walk away. The silence that follows. It echoes longer than any argument ever could. You've shifted the frame without force. You've reminded everyone in that room that true authority doesn't perform, it decides. Most people are slaves to emotional reflex. A sarcastic tone makes them defensive. A delay in response makes them anxious. A raised eyebrow becomes a declaration of war. They think they're thinking, but they're only reacting. The Stoic doesn't. He decides. He asks, "Is this worthy of me, or just a test of my discipline?" And in that question, he reclaims control. The truth is, calmness is not weakness. It's the ultimate form of strength. Anyone can shout. Anyone can react. But to remain still while the world provokes you, to observe anger without obeying it, that's mastery. It's not about avoiding emotion, but about guiding it like a commander leads an army. Precision, timing, intention. Let your calm become your message. Let your stillness be your statement. Speak few words, but let them be deliberate, sharp, measured, impossible to ignore. Don't explain yourself to those who misunderstand by choice. Don't justify your worth to those who cannot see it. You don't need to fight every storm. Sometimes the most powerful act is no act at all. Think like a general, not a soldier. Let others waste their arrows on emotion while you prepare for the longer campaign. Let them burn their energy on reaction. You conserve yours for what matters. Because what is predictable can be controlled, and the man who cannot be read cannot be ruled. So when life provokes you, pause, breathe, hold the line within. The rest of the world will adjust. That's the Stoic way, quiet, deliberate, unshakable, power that moves without noise, power that lasts. And once you master that, you're ready to step into the next rule, the art of silence itself. Moving into the second chapter, imagine stepping into a room where everyone talks over one another, voices climbing, laughter forced, ideas drowning in noise. You can almost feel the desperation in the air, that quiet hunger to be heard, to be seen, to matter. Yet there you are, standing still, speaking little, saying nothing unnecessary. The world rushes to fill the silence, but you don't. Because you understand something they don't. Silence is not emptiness, it's power contained. It's a blade still in its sheath. Most people fear silence. It unnerves them. They scramble to fill it with words, explanations, nervous laughter, anything to escape the discomfort. But that discomfort, that fragile space where noise dies and thought begins, is where you start to win. When you hold your silence, others begin to project. They start guessing what you're thinking, interpreting your stillness as confidence or wisdom, or sometimes indifference. And the longer they guess, the more they reveal. Not because you asked, but because they couldn't bear the weight of your composure. This is where control quietly shifts. The Stoics called this mastery of the self, the discipline to observe rather than react. Epictetus once said, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Silence, in that sense, is misunderstood wisdom. The man who listens gains knowledge while others lose themselves trying to sound important. You don't need to fill every pause. You need only to own it. Because the moment you stop trying to prove your worth, others begin to recognize it. Let me tell you a story. There was a Roman general who sat through an entire council meeting without saying a word. His enemies mistook his silence for weakness. They spoke endlessly, arguing, posturing, trying to display their brilliance. When he finally spoke, one sentence, sharp as a spear, the argument ended. The direction changed. The room fell still. That's not luck. That's presence. Silence gave weight to his words. Every pause before he spoke became part of his message. The Stoic doesn't use silence to hide. He uses it to anchor. Every quiet moment is a test of discipline. Can you look someone in the eye and say nothing while holding your ground? Can you let discomfort build without rushing to fill it? Most can't. They crack, they ramble, they reveal too much just to escape the tension you control with ease. And all you did was wait. That's the power of stillness. It bends the impatient. In negotiation, the one who speaks least often wins, not by trickery, but by patience. He allows the other person to rush, to over-explain, to expose their hand. Then, with a single sentence, he cuts straight to the truth. Restraint becomes persuasion. Calm becomes command. Even outside of conflict, silence transforms the ordinary. In a meeting, a pause after a question shows confidence, not hesitation. In a conversation, a moment of quiet draws attention, not doubt. And in daily life, the man who speaks less, listens more, and moves with purpose becomes magnetic. People feel it, even if they can't name it. They lean closer. They wait for your thoughts. They measure their own words against your stillness. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, let silence and modesty be your shield. To the Stoic, silence is not withdrawal, it's presence refined. It's saying, I know who I am, and I don't need to perform for your understanding. Most people talk because they need to be validated. The Stoic speaks only when it serves reason. That's what makes his words land like iron. Here's the deeper truth. When you're always talking, you become predictable, accessible, ordinary. But when you speak with restraint, your words gain weight. Scarcity breeds value. The less you give, the more people seek it. So guard your voice like a rare currency. Let every word cost something. Let silence be your signature. When you hold silence, you shape contrast. You give meaning to the sound that follows. Without it, your voice blends into the static of the world. With it, even a single phrase can change the temperature of a room. The goal isn't to be mute, it's to be measured, to understand that timing and truth are equals in power. And when you finally speak after holding your silence like a drawn bow, the release is unforgettable. So train yourself to be still in a world addicted to noise. Let others stumble over their own need to be understood. Let them fill the air with words that weaken their position while you stand unmoved in your own. And when you do speak, speak like a man who has waited long enough to make it matter. This is not conversation. This is strategy. It is composure made visible. It is dominance through stillness. Master silence, and you will no longer need to convince anyone. You will simply command. And from that calm authority, you are ready to move into the next rule. Advancing to the third chapter, imagine a man sitting quietly at the edge of a crowded table. The air is thick with conversation, voices competing, egos sparring, truths bending to be heard. Yet he doesn't rush to speak. He doesn't fight for space. He watches. He listens. His silence unsettles those who crave attention because they can't read him. And what cannot be read cannot be controlled. There is a strength in being underestimated, a kind of quiet force that shapes the room without demanding it. This is the art of being strategically misunderstood. It isn't about deceit. It's about discipline, the discipline to remain unreadable in a world that overexposes itself. You hold back just enough truth, leaving others to fill the rest with their assumptions. And in that space between what they think they know and what is real, power shifts into your hands. Most people live as open books. Their faces reveal every thought. Their words betray every intention. They bleed emotions into every silence. It makes them predictable, and what's predictable can always be defeated. The Stoic, however, understands that power does not always come from what is displayed. More often, it comes from what is withheld. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury, to remain still when provoked, to move without announcing, to hold your form when others lose theirs. That is not weakness, it's command. You don't need to impress anyone. You don't need to prove yourself. You only need to remain calm while the impatient expose themselves. Let them misjudge you. Let them think you're slower, softer, distracted. That illusion is your shield." People lower their guard around what they underestimate. They talk too much. They reveal their motives. And when the moment comes, you already know how to move. Think of it like a general who feigns retreat only to encircle his enemy. The wise never show their sharpest edge first. The Stoic plays the long game, not through manipulation, but through patience. You might downplay your knowledge in a conversation, not out of false humility, but to watch who overstates theirs. You might let someone believe they've won an argument, just to study the arrogance that follows. You might even agree outwardly while keeping your real judgment untouched until the time is right to act. That isn't deception, it's strategy guided by self-command. The difference is intent. One seeks control over others, the other seeks control over himself. There's a certain elegance in being overlooked. While others rush to be recognized, you move quietly, invisible until the moment of precision. You observe patterns, gestures, inconsistencies. You store details, and when you finally step forward, your words are deliberate, your actions exact. That's why the quiet man in the room often has the most influence. Everyone speaks freely around him, mistaking his stillness for passivity. But what they don't see is the calculation, each glance, each silence, each nod, chosen like a move in a game no one else realizes they're playing. Even in confrontation, this principle holds. When someone tries to provoke you, don't give them the reaction they expect. Don't fight noise with noise. Instead, give them indifference, a nod, a calm stare, silence. Watch what happens. That stillness unsettles them. It throws them into doubt. They expected defiance, but they meet composure. They expected heat, but find cold clarity. That hesitation you create, that pause in their confidence, is your space to win. The Stoic does not rush to strike. He allows others to defeat themselves through overexposure. There's an old truth in Roman thought: he who reveals all surrenders all. Power thrives in mystery, and mystery, when intentional, becomes armor. When you are misunderstood by design, you become untouchable. You don't need to dominate every room or correct every misconception. Let people draw their conclusions. Let them talk. While they do, you observe, you prepare, you wait. Because the one who appears harmless is the one no one guards against. And when your real strength surfaces, it's too late for them to react. Remember, this isn't manipulation, it's mastery of impression. You're not performing for approval, you're shaping perception through restraint. In a world addicted to speed and self-display, your patience becomes your power. Let others exhaust themselves trying to be seen. You conserve your strength for when it counts. You may be dismissed today, but when your moment comes, it will be undeniable. There's something liberating about not needing to be understood. You stop chasing validation. You stop explaining yourself to minds unready to understand. You move quietly, think deeply, strike decisively, and when you do, the world will realize you were never behind. You were simply waiting for the noise to fade. So, Be deliberate in your mystery. Guard your inner world like a sacred fortress. Show only what serves your purpose and nothing more, because power doesn't always come from presence. Sometimes it's born in absence, from what remains unspoken, unseen, unexplained. In that silence, you gain clarity. And in that clarity, you gain control. From here, your restraint becomes your weapon, and your unreadability becomes your shield. Now, you are ready to move forward, to turn your absence itself into strength. Entering the 4th chapter, picture this: a man who is always there, always talking, always available. You see him everywhere, at every event, in every conversation, replying to every message before he's even read it twice. But look closer. His presence begins to lose its weight. His words start to blur into noise. What is seen too often becomes invisible. What is always reachable stops being valued. In a world desperate to be seen, the rare man, the one who chooses when and how to appear, becomes unforgettable. Absence, when guided by purpose, is not neglect. It's refinement. It's not about pretending to be above others. It's about measuring your energy as a soldier measures his arrows. The Stoics knew this well. They taught that mastery of the self requires restraint, knowing when to act and when to hold still. To be rare, you must first learn to withdraw. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Withdraw into yourself. The rational mind is its own retreat." That retreat is not isolation, it's strategy. Most people spread themselves thin because they fear being forgotten. They attend every meeting, comment on every post, answer every call, not out of need, but out of fear. They think constant presence equals influence. But what they create is predictability, and what is predictable loses power. The Stoic doesn't chase visibility, he values significance. He knows his worth doesn't come from how often he's seen, but from the gravity of his presence when he chooses to appear. Imagine a man in a room full of chatter. Everyone speaks quickly, eager to be noticed, but he waits, he listens. His silence becomes magnetic. When he finally speaks, the noise falls away. The room tilts toward him. Not because he demands attention, but because he's earned it through timing and restraint. That's scarcity in motion. His presence feels deliberate. His words carry the weight of thought. When you stop scattering yourself, your every move becomes meaningful. Epictetus once said, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Why? Because that's what happens when you stop performing for others. You step back from the theater of constant validation. You no longer need to explain your silence or justify your distance. That detachment is not arrogance, it's freedom. Your absence becomes a mirror, forcing others to examine what they once took for granted. They wonder where you went. They begin to measure the emptiness you left behind. This is how absence becomes strength. When you no longer show up everywhere, your presence turns sacred. People adjust to your pace. They come prepared. They speak carefully because they know your attention isn't casual, it's costly. If your time is always available, it's treated as worthless. But when it becomes scarce, it commands respect. This is how a Stoic teaches the world how to treat him, not through demand, but through discipline. Consider the circles of true influence, small, guarded, built on silence. The doors aren't open to everyone, the rules aren't explained aloud, and that mystery itself commands reverence. It's not pride, it's preservation. The more selective you are with your energy, the more powerful your energy becomes. You don't have to disappear out of bitterness. You disappear to return sharper, clearer, untouchable. When you reappear, it feels like an event, not a routine. So stop running toward every invitation to be seen. You don't owe the world your constant availability. You owe yourself your focus. Pull back from the noise. Let your stillness speak for you. You don't need to announce your withdrawal. Those who matter will notice. Those who don't were never paying attention anyway. Every silence refines you. Every pause strengthens your presence. You're no longer diluted. You're distilled. Seneca said, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." Presence without purpose is emptiness disguised as importance. Choose instead to be deliberate. Move when it matters. Speak when it counts. Let others exhaust themselves chasing relevance while you cultivate substance. The world doesn't remember the man who shouts the loudest. It remembers the one who appears at the right time, says the right thing, and vanishes again before he's overexposed. In a world addicted to noise and attention, be the calm interruption. Let others wonder what drives your restraint. Let them earn your presence. Because rarity builds reverence. You don't need to be seen by everyone. You only need to be remembered by the right ones. And once you've mastered that, when your absence itself carries weight, you begin to understand the next law of unshakable power. To lead, not by control or display, but by reflection and quiet influence. At this stage, imagine two people standing face to face. One tries to dominate the moment, speaking louder, cutting in, pushing to be heard. The other stands still, calm, listening with steady eyes and quiet poise. And slowly, without realizing it, the loud one begins to match the calm one's rhythm. The pace softens, the tone shifts, the storm begins to settle. That's influence in its purest form, quiet, unseen, but undeniable. There's a kind of strength that doesn't need to raise its voice. It moves like water, soft enough to yield, but powerful enough to shape stone. The Stoics called this the art of reflection, the ability to guide others not by force, but through presence. True influence isn't about control, it's about alignment. When you reflect someone's rhythm, when you match their tone, their energy, their breath, you create harmony. And in that harmony, resistance dissolves. People trust what feels familiar. When they sense themselves in you, something disarms inside them. Their guard lowers. They begin to listen. Epictetus taught, "Be more ready to calm than to confront." That is the essence of reflection, to see the storm in another and decide not to feed it. To step into a conversation not to win, but to understand. The Stoic doesn't argue to prove his point. He listens to see where the other's fear hides, where their need for validation begins. Then he adjusts, not to flatter, but to guide. There's a quiet mastery in that. Imagine walking into a room filled with noise. Opinions clash, egos collide, everyone talking over one another. Instead of joining the fray, you watch. You notice who interrupts, who seeks approval, who speaks with purpose. You observe how they sit, how their tone changes when they feel challenged, where their words tremble. You match just enough, slowing when they slow, pausing when they pause, and suddenly they feel seen. That single moment of recognition, this person understands me, opens a door no argument could ever unlock. Most people enter conversations like soldiers ready for war. They defend, attack, persuade, but the Stoic enters like a mirror, reflecting, steady, patient. He understands that words alone cannot reach a closed heart. Only understanding can. Once that sense of safety appears, influence begins. It's not control, it's motion, and when someone feels emotionally safe, they will follow your lead without realizing they've chosen to. Here's the subtle brilliance. Leadership isn't about commanding others. It's about guiding the rhythm of the moment, a single change in tone, a slower breath, a pause that invites thought. These are the quiet gestures that turn tension into trust. When you do this right, the other person thinks it's their idea to calm down, to agree, to change direction. But all you did was create the space for their better self to emerge. In conflict, this skill becomes a shield. When someone attacks you with words, meet their intensity just for a breath to acknowledge it. Then slowly lower your voice, your pace, your energy. They will follow your calm like a drowning man reaching for air. You don't silence them, you steady them. That's how the Stoic wins battles without drawing a sword. Seneca once wrote, "To bear trials with a calm mind robs misfortune of its strength." The same applies to people. Meet fire with composure, and their fire loses oxygen. Even in persuasion, the pattern remains. You can have the most logical argument in the world, but logic alone rarely reaches people. They hear through emotion first, so you match their rhythm, acknowledge their perspective, and only then guide the current toward reason. When two minds meet at the same frequency, truth flows naturally between them. A grounded man speaks less to be heard and more to be felt. Once you've built that silent bridge of trust, you begin to steer, not by pushing, but by shifting. You alter the tempo, guide the tone, ask one honest question. And before long, the conversation moves in your direction, though no one can say exactly when the tide turned. That's not manipulation, it's moral strategy. The Stoic leads because his clarity offers safety, not because his ego demands victory. People won't always remember what you said, but they'll remember how they felt in your presence, calm, respected, understood. That is your real legacy. Reflection is not imitation, it's resonance. It's the quiet act of saying, "I see you," without words. And when others feel seen, they trust, they follow. So the next time you step into a conversation, don't rush to prove a point. Slow down, observe, reflect, guide. When you master the rhythm of others, you begin to conduct the flow of the entire moment. You don't chase control, you hold it naturally. You don't lead through dominance, you lead through stillness. At this point, power no longer needs to be seized. It walks toward you. And from this space of calm authority, you're ready for the final rule, the art of walking away with clarity. Now imagine this, a room full of noise, voices clashing, pride and insecurity colliding like sparks. Someone argues, someone defends, someone tries to prove their worth. But in the corner stands one man, silent, calm, unshaken. He listens, nods once, and when the moment calls for a reaction, he doesn't give one. He simply turns and walks away. The air shifts. Everyone feels it, the quiet authority of someone who doesn't need to stay. That's power. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that decides. The Stoics understood this truth. Real strength isn't about how long you can endure, it's about knowing when to leave. The most dangerous man in any room is the one who is free from need. He doesn't cling to approval or chase control. He stands on principle. And when that principle is crossed, he doesn't explain, he doesn't fight, he exits. Most people can't do this. They hold on to fading things, relationships that drain them, jobs that suffocate them, arguments that rob their peace. They stay not out of conviction, but fear. Fear of being forgotten, fear of emptiness, fear of starting over. They call their endurance loyalty, but it's really quiet despair. Seneca said, He who does not rule himself will always be ruled. Walking away is the rule of the self, the highest act of mastery. The Stoic man knows departure isn't weakness, it's clarity. He doesn't storm out or burn bridges. He withdraws with discipline. His silence speaks louder than defense ever could. It creates reflection, forces others to confront their own behavior, and reveals what they took for granted. That isn't cruelty, it's consequence. To walk away with clarity means leaving from reason, not emotion. The untrained mind leaves in anger. The disciplined mind leaves in peace. Whether it's a conversation gone nowhere, a deal that disrespects your time, or a bond that costs your calm, the Stoic doesn't try to fix what's already broken. He observes. He decides. He leaves. Not from pride, but from principle. The man who knows when to walk away becomes unpredictable, not unstable, but free. People can sense it. They feel when you don't need them, and suddenly the balance of power shifts. In business, your terms gain weight. In relationships, your presence earns respect, because those who don't cling move differently. They move with quiet authority. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Withdraw into yourself." The rational mind is its own retreat. When you build that inner retreat, the world bends around your composure. Even in conflict, the Stoic understands that silence can be sharper than argument. Let others raise their voice, twist the story, fight to be right. You don't need to defend what truth already protects. Walk away and let your absence speak. Later, they'll replay the moment and feel the weight of your silence. Because nothing unnerves the insecure like someone who refuses to react. Walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's how you protect your time, your peace, your future. You turn the page before resentment writes the next one. The Stoic doesn't cling because he knows everything borrowed from the world, titles, affection, approval, will one day return to it. What remains is your mind, your discipline, your standard. And here's the truth. The man who can leave at any moment without anger or regret holds the greatest power of all. Because when you no longer need to stay, you no longer need to prove. The world begins to treat your presence as sacred, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it through clarity. So when life tempts you to argue, to explain, to hold on, pause. Remember that silence carries its own authority. Sometimes the strongest statement is made not in victory, but in the calm of your exit. Walk away with peace. Walk away with power. And from that stillness, move forward, light, free, and ready for what's next. True power doesn't shout. It moves with quiet confidence, guided by clarity, patience, and restraint. These 6 rules aren't tricks to control others, but timeless disciplines to master yourself. When you stay calm under pressure, speak with purpose, protect your distance, and walk away with peace. You no longer react to the world, you shape it. Most people seek noise and recognition, but true influence comes from stillness. If this message spoke to you, take a deep breath and let it settle within. Subscribe to continue walking this path of composure and strength, and write "Stay calm" in the comments to anchor this lesson. Your next step begins soon.